Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Liberty Report. With us today is Daniel McAdams, our co-host. Daniel, good to see you.
Good morning, Dr. Paul. How are you this morning?
Good. You're feeling pretty good. I wonder if Donald Trump's feeling pretty good.
He's got to be. He's had a pretty good week.
You know, a lot of people say, how does he put up with all that? Yeah. And indeed, you know, most people say, well, you know, he's such a bad character. He probably did half that stuff. He probably, he probably deserved it all. And there's a lot of that, but it's still politics. It's politics. But I tell you what. It's probably a little worse than I thought. I knew it was bad, and I wasn't overly optimistic that Durham would come up with a good report.
Yeah,
He didn't give me the appearance that he was there for the right reason, but I didn't know him. I had no right to make a judgment. But it looks like, you know, he drifted right into this danger zone of telling the truth.
Yeah.
So this is pretty amazing. And I was telling you a little earlier that sometimes these things are overwhelming, all the corruption in Washington. And I've always had a belief that that doesn't keep you from talking about it and making a record of it, because someday somebody wants to know about it. Sort of like the Kennedy assassination. They've worked for a long time doing it, and they could have gotten the truth about that assassination probably within a couple months. But no. But making a record is important. And I always figured that a lot of this stuff that's been going on since 2016, people need to come forth, and the whistleblowers should come forward. The ones that did got punished, and it goes on and on. But this looks like there was a burst of truth coming out on this, and it sort of draws attention to my point that there are higher laws of you know, what is right and wrong, and there's also a coup that is driven by nihilism. We're in charge, and we don't have to tell lies. And most people say, well, politicians lie all the time.
Yeah.
But it's not totally epidemic, where everything they say is designed to tell a lie, distort the truth, because you have to maintain power in order to take care of the people and protect our empire.
Yeah. Well, you talk a lot about the CIA coup with regard to the JFK assassination, a coup against America. This really looks like a second coup against America, launched by the FBI in collusion with the CIA and the Hillary Clinton campaign. I mean, the Durham Report is an absolute bombshell. People say, well, no one's gone to jail. Well, maybe not yet. Maybe someone will. Certainly someone should. But just as you always say, the truth getting out can be enough. And the truth is, the FBI launched a campaign to investigate the ties between Trump and Russia, knowing full well at the time that there was zero evidence whatsoever of these ties. And they leaked to create suspicion that Trump is really working for that bad, evil Putin. Over and over, not only did they try to change the election results by doing that, but they also hobbled his presidency for 4 years. Because the more he denied it, the more they say, see, only someone who is guilty would deny it so much. You just admit it. And now we know it's all completely fake. And if we can put on this first clip, because I think former President Trump was right. He said, the American public was scammed. And this is from Zero Hedge. That's his reaction to the report. Let's look at a summary helpfully provided by Technofog via the reactionary via Zero Hedge. But here's just a couple of things, Dr. Paul, so we can go down the bill of particulars. Number one, the FBI discounted or willfully ignored material information that did not support the narrative of a collusive relationship between Trump and Russia. So all the counter evidence, they simply ignored it all. Crossfire Hurricane, which as we know was that investigation of Trump and Russia, was opened as a full investigation without the FBI ever having spoken to the persons who provided the information. And that's a quote from the report. Days after it was opened, Peter Strzok, remember he was the leading figure in this, he was telling a London FBI employee, quote, there is nothing to this. That's what he said in private. Of course, in public it was different. And then next, internal FBI communications discussing Crossfire Hurricane during its early stages. Quote, it's thin, and quote, it sucks. So they knew what was happening. The agents knew what the leadership was doing. The British intelligence pushed back when Mueller requested assistance. I'm not going to even say what they said, but they are not going to get involved. Durham also documented 2 investigations into Hillary Clinton, one involving her foundation and the other involving illegal foreign contributions. They squashed those investigations in favor of the high-profile Trump-Russia, which was based on zero.
You know, sometimes it takes a while to get a little bit of vindication, but somebody had dug up a speech that I gave that I forgot about from 1988.
Yeah.
I wonder what I said. But it turns out that I was not indecisive about what we should do, and it was just we shouldn't have an FBI. But just think, if even prior to that, if we got rid of the FBI and the CIA, how much harm could have and danger could have been prevented from this. I had somebody that was in the FBI, but a decent person, and he was so blunt and so clear cut. This was probably in the 70s I met him, but he had a lot of experience in it. He said that if you want to live in a republic, you cannot have a CIA.
Yeah.
It was incompatible with it, and that is so true, because that's where the power goes. So the coup is not all that difficult.
Yeah.
You know, if the coup has already occurred, it's just how much are they going to get away with. So right now it's hoping that they will not get away with nearly as much. So I think it's the best thing that can happen from this is all these people who won't get to go to jail.
Yeah.
You know, they say Hillary people never even got charged, but if their reputation can be exposed and by the truth, hopefully that will diminish their income capacity by being the experts on the television all the time.
Yeah.
And at the point where when his name is seen or they are seen somewhere, that most people will say, yes, you're the scoundrels that really brought down a lot of the good things in this country.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's go to our friend Jonathan Turley, because he just put out a piece with some comments, and we always appreciate, and as everyone knows, he's not a Trump supporter by any stretch, but as you've, I think, often said, he's a supporter of getting to the truth. And if we can put that next clip on, this is his overall first blush at the report. He says, the report shreds the FBI and Justice Department for abandoning standards and ignoring the lack of evidence to launch and prolong the investigation. I think that's an important word, prolong. The report notes that the treatment of unsubstantiated allegations in the Steele dossier, funded by the Clinton campaign, was markedly different from the government's level of interest in Clinton's campaign when it faced such allegations. So, launching it without any evidence, but then everyone knowing that there's no evidence that there's any collusion, but prolonging it over years and years, leaking it out.
We could make a point by saying that that you just quoted, that the standards were there, but they abandoned them and they didn't follow them. That's what Jonathan points out.
Yeah.
But that is so characteristic of how the system works. And you might say, well, the standards have been set, and it was set in a guideline which was hoped to be for a republic. And so how many people have abandoned the standards set just in one article of the Constitution? Article 1, Section 8 was very limited to what the Congress and the government was allowed to do. But so it's back down to personal morality and what they believe in and why they would do this and why they work so hard to undermine it. Because I think sometimes some of these whistleblowers, that they have to have, even though they have been maybe had to leave the country and all that, they must have a sense of good feeling about that, because they stood on principle, and history will prove that they were decent people. But some of these people don't have any conscience. So just because I got caught on this and Hillary's still doing fine, she doesn't seem to have any remorse. So, and she's not going to. These people are able to to pursue what they want, lie and cheat and steal, and never have any remorse. They feel no guilt at all.
Yeah, they're psychopaths.
That's right. That's it.
But the bottom line is this: Comey and John Brennan, the CIA director, wanted Hillary to win, so they were willing to do something to help her win. Now, this is exactly what Mike Morrell said. Remember when we covered this a few days ago, last week? They asked him, well, why did you write this letter for the 51 intelligence officers to sign saying that the laptop story was Russian disinformation? He said, well, I wanted Biden to win, so I wanted to do something to help him win. So it's the exact same thing. So all of a sudden, these guys get more power to get someone elected than the voters. I wanted him to win, so I turned the knobs and I faked things and I made sure that he was going to win.
The squirming now by some of the stations and reporters that knew the truth but would hide it and lie even more, they're right now squirming a little bit more, and they think they can, if it's high integrity and then low integrity over here, and they've slipped into this area, and now they want to work their way up. Well, never have high integrity, but they'd like to just get back in and be acceptable. And that'd be the question: will the people, get propagandized and accept these people who get us into trouble? What about all the wars we got into?
Yeah.
In the '60s, they talked about that a lot. Whose programs were this, and why did we go, and who funded the money, and on and on? Who made the profits? Nobody gets prosecuted, for that. And the prosecution, the danger and the real penalties come to some innocent people, the innocent people who rarely pay the bills because they end up either being taxed or taxed by inflation, and they're the ones who suffer, and yet it doesn't seem quite fair. So it's a delight for me to see somebody come out here. This is not... We can't say, oh yeah, you said that because you're just a supporter of Trump. Yeah, but now they don't have to say that.
Yeah,
they say
can't.
That let's go to a commission that did some work, and most people are accepting it as the truth.
Yeah. Well, let's return to Turley a little bit because he makes a couple of other good points. If we can go to that next clip. Now, this is Turley writing on his own website, jonathanturley.org. Durham's report confirmed that the FBI ignored intelligence it received from, quote, a trusted foreign source, pointing to a Clinton campaign plan to vilify Trump by tying him to Vladimir Putin so as to divert attention from her own concerns relating to her use of a private email server. So the FBI got information from a trusted foreign source saying that, look, here's what's going on. This whole Putin thing is fake. She's trying to cover up her own server problems. They knew. Leave that up if you don't mind, please. And divert attention from her own problems, pushing this. And Durham noted the speed and manner in which the FBI opened and investigated Crossfire Hurricane during a presidential election season based on raw, unanalyzed, and uncorroborated intelligence also reflected a noticeable departure from how it approached prior matters involving possible attempted foreign election interference plans aimed at the Clinton campaign. So
they have to work on the assumption that people are idiots.
Yeah.
And they fail to look at their own problems. It may be that the idiots are running the show, and the whole thing is for them to believe that this will pass over. Well, it could, but I still think there's two things: the immediate reaction and people discovering it. Sometimes that happens, but it's also eventually, truth comes out. I really do believe that you can't cancel truth. You can cancel jobs and cancel people and do all of this evil stuff, but you really, if something is true, no matter what they do, no matter how much propaganda there is, and how much threats you have, you can't cancel truth. That's something that's beyond our ability.
Yeah.
You can distort it and take advantage of it and punish people who speak the truth. But the facts of the matter are that if there's a truthful thing there, it will be there no matter what they do. Unfortunately, a lot of people suffer defending the truth.
Yeah. And, you know, that's why they talk up the insurrection of January 6th, the insurrection of January 6th. They're the ones who did it. They're the ones who did the insurrection. I mean, what we're seeing here with the Durham Report, and we had an inkling that all of this was the case, but this kind of finalized it. This was like a million January 6th all put together, if you want to talk about subverting our democracy.
Yeah.
You know?
And, you know, you get to wondering if the Republicans hadn't taken the House, would any of this happen? Well, it should, but probably would not. There would be a lot less pressure because there's been more public pressure for this. But because there was this pressure and the Congress changed a little bit, and that's political power used in a more positive way than we're used to seeing, especially those who want to deal in elections. But it's a shame that they couldn't have dwelled in the last campaign when it was said that somebody wanted to cancel the election, and it should be. There's been dishonesty there, and all the votes haven't been counted. We believe that the votes were counted. What do you have against counting all the votes?
Yeah.
But instead it turned into. But that was the control by the enemy. You know, that's how they distorted it. Oh, poor loser. You know, Nixon didn't do it. He probably won the election in 1960s, and he says, but. They took care of him. Later on, he became president. Then they got him.
Then they got him. That's, I mean, the most disturbing thing about this whole thing, Dr. Paul, is that there really is nothing to stop them from doing it again. You know, they'll talk about reforms and measures are put in place, and I'll show their statement in a second. But it's like once it's been so obviously crossed that line where the deep state, the secret state, gets to decide who's elected. You know, there's nothing to stop them from doing it ever again, every single time.
No, and those kind of people will do that because they either can blind themselves to it or they literally can't comprehend telling the truth. They certainly don't put any value on it. They don't feel like, well, you know, they don't agitate and say, Adam Schiff, do you think at nighttime, he says, looks like we got caught. I shouldn't have done that.
Right.
He's wanting to be senator to really have power.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a shame.
Well, here's what the FBI said, if we can put this next clip up. This is their reaction to the report. The conduct of 2016 and 2017 that Special Counsel Durham examined was the reason that current FBI leadership already implement dozens of corrective actions, which have been in place for some time. Had those reforms been in place in 2016, the missteps identified in the report could have been prevented. This report reinforces the importance of ensuring the FBI continues to do its work with the rigor, objectivity, and professionalism the American people deserve and rightly respect. In a short way of saying this, we investigated ourselves and found out we're fine. We just needed to do a little reform. Here's Turley's take. It's on the FBI statement, if you can do that next one, because he makes a very, very good point. He says missteps is hardly how one would describe a false narrative promulgated by a campaign and perpetuated by the FBI, or the derailing of a duly elected president for 3 years in a faux conspiracy. The statement is ample evidence of a lack of remorse by the FBI, like a habitual offender giving a shrug in his court allocution before a judge. And that is a great point. Just saying this, it was a misstep, it's a misstep, we fixed it, no problem. That's nowhere near the level of remorse that we need to see.
If one recognizes that human nature is such that corruption's been around a long time, and when the setup is right, a lot of people are tempted and a lot of people participate in it. But the one thing is with the situation we have now with all the elections and all the other things and the money that flows and the military-industrial complex and the pharmaceuticals and all this, there's an incentive out there that is a false incentive it wouldn't occur in a free society and an honest economy. So there's a tremendous amount of incentive. So big government per se has a lot to do with this, especially when they add on the subsidies. Not only because a lot of companies benefit by government money one way or the other, and that encourages people to do that. And if the government is doing it, you know, subtly it's saying, well, that's the government and they do this. the individuals go along with it. So governments, in a way, set a moral standard because they're the ones who start a lot of this. FBI agents do this, but there's a limit to it, of course, and that's what they're running up to. But this, I think, if you had a truly libertarian society, this is where I would probably get challenged, that you would have less crimes because you would have less laws. You wouldn't be trying to regulate everything in the economy. You wouldn't try to run the world, and you wouldn't try to take care of people's personal habits. And all of a sudden, there would be less places for people to cheat, and less money to pass out by government edict.
Exactly. Well, here's this next is a tweet, and this, I would say, Exhibit A for the fact that this was a coup. This was a deep state coup against America, against every single American citizen. If you can put this next one on, this is a tweet by Greg Price, but he captures it. And every time I read this, I'm still astonished. I can't believe what I'm reading, but he has the documents to show it. According to the Durham Report, the plan by Hillary Clinton to create a false story linking Trump to Russia was briefed in August 2016 by CIA Director John Brennan to President Obama, Vice President Biden, Attorney General Lynch, and FBI Director Comey. They all knew about it. They were all in on it. They knew that Hillary was going to falsely claim that Trump was tied to Russia, and they all went along with it anyway. It's incredible. And not only that, but they encouraged, if you look at this next one, here's Comey. The Carter Page FISA, and this is a long story, you don't want to get into the weeds too much, but this is where they surveilled members of the Trump campaign based on no material, no evidence. The Carter Page FISA was submitted under intense pressure from the FBI leadership. FBI Director James Comey in particular wanted the Carter Page FISA badly. He wrote to McCabe, "Where is the FISA? Where is the FISA?" Meaning he wanted the campaign people followed, wiretapped, bugged. He was looking, he was fishing, and he was also violating the Constitution and violating FISA itself.
Brennan and the others who went along with this, their motivation was obviously that if they could control the judicial system, they're home free. And but they were overconfident, overstretched, and the whole thing is, and fortunately they were caught. Unfortunately, it doesn't change a whole lot in the future. We still have the threat, and that's why I think that on the big issues that they don't even bring up, because this in a way is puny toward the military industrial complex is a big deal, but it's pretty puny compared to deliberately starting wars for these various groups to do it, and also to provide this for everybody. They accept. How do you pay for it? Well, you just counterfeit the money. We'll get control of it. So all this transition from a republic to an authoritarian state occurred. The money issue sort of led the way. All the way back to 1913. It was all a strategy, and look at where we are today. And this is crucial. The issue here is truth, and there's a burst of success here. But the other thing is we ought to think about, what about truth and money? Do you think that's worth talking about? So far, not likely. I mean, we didn't have. We're getting more bipartisan support against corporations benefiting from the COVID vaccine crisis, which is good. And maybe Robert Kennedy will continue to help us along with those issues.
Yeah, that would be great. Well, we heard about the coup. We just saw the coup involved in Brennan, involved Comey and all of them. But there's always, as you mentioned Nixon earlier, it was not so much the break-in, but the cover-up. So we know about the coup. Now here's the cover-up. Now go to that very last clip, if you can. Skip ahead to that last one. Go one more forward, if you can. There we go. Now here's the cover-up. The FBI paid Steele, now this is the Steele dossier, they paid Steele's primary subsource, Igor Danchenko, a total of $220,000. So Steele was hired by Hillary to put together a fake report on Trump, and the FBI paid the source of the report. But not only that, the FBI, after it learned Danchenko lied to them, and during the Durham investigation, proposed future payments of $300,000, payments that would have kept Janchenko under wraps. So they gave him 200 grand for the lies, and then when they found out the dude's a total liar, they said, let's give him 300 grand more to keep this guy quiet.
What happens if they have an intense investigation? They talk about it on the whole Biden family. There might be some surprises there. No surprises, but there might be some evidence that has come forth where people would have trouble believing it.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Schiff now, and I had a couple of video clips of Schiff. I mean, and we want to talk about the bad guys. I would say the person who comes out smelling like a rose is Donald Trump. And you started the show by saying he's had a pretty good week. He had a huge success in the CNN town hall. This is a huge success for him. I don't know what they're going to come up with next, but this is making his candidacy look so much better. But the bad guys are people like Adam Schiff, who you mentioned, who knew it was fake, and he knew there was no evidence because he was the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. He had all the info, but he lied and said that there was plenty. Let's play that second to last. I'm going to skip the first two audio clips. Just do the second to last one and the last one if we can. This is Adam Schiff. Here he is in 2018. 2018, talking about the Russia collusion hoax.
Sense that you had a break-in at the Democratic headquarters, in this case a virtual one, not a physical break-in, and you had a president as part of a cover-up, and here you have a president doing a different kind of cover-up. You have a president peddling these falsehoods, and you have essentially people putting out propaganda like Rudy Giuliani to further that fiction. It is, I think, of a size and scope probably beyond Watergate, just not the Watergate the president is referring to.
Or not.
So that's one. And Trump was right to call him Shifty Schiff. And let's do the second one, because here he is lying again about the evidence. And now we know there is no evidence. We know for a fact. Here we go. Here he is on Face the Nation lying.
Can you agree that there has been no evidence of collusion, coordination, or conspiracy that has been presented thus far between the Trump campaign and Russia?
No, I don't agree with that at all. I think there's plenty of evidence of collusion or conspiracy in plain sight. Now, that's a different statement than saying that there's proof beyond a reasonable doubt of a criminal conspiracy. Bob Mueller will have to determine that. But of course,
right,
the entire meeting at Trump Tower...
you acknowledge that the FBI has not presented it thus far. I'm drawing this distinction because this is what the White House is arguing here, that the president is drawing a distinction, that he is saying when he says hoax and witch hunt that he means one thing and that it's not.
Cut that off now. But basically he's playing the old game, Dr. Paul, of, well, if you saw the things that I saw because I'm the head of Intel in the House, then you would agree with me. I can't tell you these things because they're secret, but trust me, Trump is guilty. He was lying the whole time.
He always had some special evidence, but it was so good and so special, you don't have a right to see it.
That's right. That's right.
Of course, it should be seen by the people, and they should have access to this, which is generally denied. That's why whistleblowers are so key, as we've emphasized, over the years that we've been in this business. The whistleblowers are key to what's happening, but they do get a bad rap, and that has to be done, because if whistleblowers are praising our heroes, that'll blow their cover. How would the people go along with this? But I think there's a little bit of a shift in that. I better watch out.
Watch the language.
A good shift.
Well, I'm going to, before I close out, Dr. Paul, if we're ready, I just want to again thank our sponsor. That's 4patriots.com. As you know, they're our sponsor this month. Hurricane season is coming. It's time to start thinking about how are you going to survive if you are without power. Well, one great way to do it is with their Patriot Power Generator. It comes in different capacities, the 1800 model or the 2000 model. Everyone needs a generator. A lot of people use gas generators. They work okay, but there is a problem of deadly carbon monoxide that can seep out of the generator and poison you and your sleep. But 4patriots.com has a great new generation of portable, safe, silent, 100% fume-free generators. And that's because they are solar powered. They don't use gas, they don't give out fumes, and they're not loud like a generator is to keep you up all night. They're as quiet as a laptop, and they're lightweight and easy to carry around. You can power your medical devices, your phones, even your refrigerator or other things, and you can increase capacity as needed. The best part about it is you can go to 4patriots.com and use the code RON to get 10% off your first purchase on anything in the store, not just generators. So go to 4patriots.com, use code RON, and I will add a link in the description to get that 10% off. And if you spend $97, you get free shipping. So check out 4patriots.com.
Very good.
Yep, and I'm done. That's it. I've said my piece.
Okay. I'm going to close by mentioning the fact that what we need is more truth tellers. And this report today shows that there are some truth tellers out there, and not yet any remorse from those who have been lying through their teeth. But the one thing about telling the truth, you can't get rid of it. It always exists. And it can be very popular. Just like freedom is popular if people know the consequence and what it means to them personally. And this is up to the people to make the decision. But the lies are easy to pass out, especially if there's special benefits gained from this. And yet I think the lesson today that we're learning from the Durham Report is some truth certainly came out today, and it's going to benefit our country. And there's going to be a lot of argument and denials and a lot of other things, but they'll never put back in the jar and say that everything that Trump has ever said is based on lies. They're going to have a tough time doing that. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today to the Liberty Report. Please come back soon.